God of peace, we invite you to preside over this meeting. Even if we have different opinions, give us unity of spirit. Help us to each listen politely as others share their points of view. Help us to work as a unified team in combining ideas for a great outcome. Help us to make us as whole, rather than individuals trying to promote their own agendas. May we have a spirit of camaraderie in this room and work together on our shared mission. Amen. Item 5, public comments and receipt of petitions. At this time, anyone will be allowed to speak on any matter other than personnel matters. Any matter not specifically listed for public hearing elsewhere on the agenda, or matters under litigation for a length of time not to exceed 4 minutes. No council, board discussion, or action may take place on a matter until such matter has been placed on an agenda and posted in accordance with law, Texas Government Code Section 551.042. We have Amy Hilton. Hi guys. Regarding items on the agenda, I was looking at 14 and 15 on the cameras for the library. I'm asking y'all to either table it or vote against it. Security cameras are certainly some pretty great benefits to have, and the library is a hub of community activity, and I understand that. I'm no stranger to city contracts and previously served on the Red Oak Parks and Library boards. But even as a proponent of making the library as great as it can be and as safe as possible for everyone, this is a huge chunk of money for the city of Whitney. And it's a time when residents simply can't afford what is already being spent. I was here when that little guy came up to the microphone and pleaded for tax relief, and he didn't get any response from that. If we've got $48,000 to blow, I would love to see it go towards a specific city exemption for over 65 disability and veterans and stuff like that. But this is just a lot of money. I don't have the information on why this is happening, so I don't know the history. We just don't know. It's not an information thing. I requested the agenda packet to see if there was more information on that. But we don't get that until after the meeting. So by way of just being able to be informed residents, it would be great if the city could just post the agenda packet, everything that's already responsive to a public request, and post that before the meeting so people can see what's going on and there's not as many questions on it. Regarding the agenda itself, that's the transparency part. It's like this grant works information is great. I had asked if building a new water treatment plant would be covered under this, but it doesn't look like it is. So I don't really have anything prepared for these specific activities. It'd be great if I did. I'll take a look before the public hearing, but this part here wasn't shared publicly. So the other part is addressing public information requests. Right now, every request you guys get is going to the attorneys. I don't even want to know, well, I don't want to know how expensive that is, but that's going to be another Public Information Act request. I know the law does not require that we hire attorneys for every single public information request. I requested a plain text copy of just the corrected notice that was sent to the attorneys. It was a notice that was already published, and I asked for a plain text copy, and we now have to deal with the city being billed by the attorneys for billable hours on reviewing an obvious public information document. So I would encourage the city to find a way to start posting more information immediately to the website as another way to avoid unnecessary costs. As far as agenda items, I'm kind of surprised that the city loaded up a special city council meeting with stuff that really should be on a regular city council meeting. There's a lot of people here that didn't come because they were thinking this was just a public hearing. And it's a special city council meeting with $50,000 on library cameras. So I would encourage you to consider going to twice-a-month meetings, regular twice-a-month meetings, if having 2 meetings a month is easier to get city business done, because that's something that people can get used to seeing and going to.
Anyway, I saw a work today on one of the pictures, and I just called 911 and got the people there.
Thank you, City Council. I'm very excited about a project that we've taken on from one of our nonprofits, Community Outreach Housing, Outreach Foundation, and the Hill County Whitney Lions Club. I'm very excited about cleaning up the city park. So we have a scheduled cleanup day on February 22nd, and I invite any of you to come out and see what's going on out there. We do have an incredible long-term plan to completely renovate this entire park, completely renovate the tennis courts, turn those into some multi-use basketball courts and pickleball courts, bring in new playground equipment for our children, clean it up, and this is going to take a lot of city involvement and a lot of city partnering. Therefore, I have requested to be on the full agenda for next month, and hopefully by next month I'll have some rendered drawings of what we want to do out there. I'll have some line item budgets that are really going to be important, and I'm going to ask for the permission of the city to use your logo in some things, and then we're going to possibly go even a lease route. So all that's coming, but mainly I'm here today to just plant the seeds that this cleanup day is on the 22nd, and that we need everybody's help. We're going to be in a brick selling campaign. There's just a lot of really, really cool things coming. But I need to kind of keep that under my hat until after the next meeting. So today I just want y'all to know that it's happening and that we're very, very excited about raising money and cleaning up the park and doing something that's really going to make a difference, a big impact on our children. So I need the city. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. I'm not Danielle Lewis. She's sitting right down here. My name's Charles Edwards with GrantWorks. Also have Rob Barkin here with us tonight. First off, thank you for allowing us to work with you on these programs. Tonight's public hearing, which I know we'll get into here in a moment, will address a recent grant award that was provided to the city of $750,000 to address public infrastructure needs here in the city of Whitney. So congratulations on that. And not sure how we want to proceed through this end of the public hearing, but I'm happy to answer any questions regarding that grant award right now that you may have.
Mr. Edwards, can you just tell an overall 1,000-foot view of what this grant is, what we're eligible for with this grant, and what projects they can go towards?
Absolutely, absolutely. The funds begin at the federal level at HUD, and they're filtered down through the Texas Department of Agriculture, and there's CDBG funds, the Community Development Block Grant funds. In the state of Texas, those are broken into entitlement funds, which go to the large municipalities, and they can do as they wish with those. Rural Texas competes for the funds, which, as you know, you're awarded the funds that we submitted for. Those in this region, every 2 years, the regions come together and develop scoring criteria for these and establish the project activities. In this region in Texas, you're eligible to apply for water, sewer, streets, and drainage projects as those top-tier priorities, so that's what these funds can address. And you did that by way of resolution earlier, or late last year, which was part of the competition, so that's what you're committed to because you got the top amount of points for those categories. So that's what they can address. They have to address areas of primarily low to moderate income, so that can be accomplished by either if you're citywide LMI, and I apologize, I don't have that information on me, you could look at a citywide project, or we can look at target areas as well and accomplish that by way of income surveys, individual income surveys of the households. But 51% of the persons benefiting from the project is a programmatic requirement. Yes, water, sewer, streets, drainage are the main top tier categories that you're committed to applying under. Absolutely. There's various other grant programs that are offered, CDBG funds that are offered by Texas Department of Agriculture, Texas Department of Housing that can address other needs, but this fund that you were awarded address because of the regional priorities and the top tier, which you received the top score for because you stated that you were applying under those, that's what you'll need to address with these funds. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Edwards, when typically you send these packets out to municipalities to fill this out, there's a form in there in which we have to identify our top priorities. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then those points are awarded based off of that criteria. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct.
This is more for the public's benefit, so if they have these questions later, that they're being answered. The two of the top priorities that the city of Whitney identified was drainage and road improvements. So not water and wastewater, to be clear. So those are what we're hoping to use these funds for. Can you kind of walk everybody through that might have questions down the road about what this process looks like from now till funding and completion?
So this is the first step to take public comments on anything the residents or the public here in the city of Whitney would, with this knowledge, would like to see accomplished with the funds. And then basically we develop a project scope moving forward with all the information that we've gathered. An engineer will be brought on board to assist with the budgeting and later on down the road the design and bid process. But for right now, moving through this phase 2 application process, and this is very new. This is the first time they've done that with this fund, a phased process, but it's intentional because you know you're awarded the funds before you're deep diving into the project development, which is where we're at now. And this public comment period tonight is the first step in that. Once we devise that plan and identify projects, we'll move forward with estimating budgets, developing maps, all the requirements that we're hired on by the city to provide for you, and fill in the blanks on the application within the online portal that the funding agency has. By April 2nd, we have to submit that plan to the TDA for their review, and they'll say, yeah, that looks like an eligible project. And then from there, we're kind of finalizing things, performing income surveys if need be, or if it's a citywide project and we qualify under that. It's just a data set that we use. Final application due by June the 30th. So it's not a terribly long road that we have, but certainly able to be accomplished.
Well, I'm just trying to, this is more for education for everything, right? So this is the first year that this grant has been $750,000. Is that correct? It has been $500,000 prior to this one?
That's correct.
So we're the first municipality in the Hot Dog area that has been granted the $750,000. Is that correct?
There's 2 that were granted, and Rob, do you know the other? Belinda? Okay, Belinda and you were selected as the top 2 entities in this region.
Okay. Also, the income survey, can you kind of explain how that works? And that's something that GrantWorks takes care of, not the municipality itself, right? So can you kind of explain that process, and if we identify areas of a certain part of town, what that would look like for our residents when this income survey becomes a thing?
That's right. So HUD publishes out the LMI data that we have to meet, and so it's based on family size and number of persons in the family and your income level, a range of income. So there is a template form that's provided for use, and we do have our own internal survey team. We will work with the city. We will establish what's called a letter of intent, and that's something that our survey crew will carry around. If we identify we're going to work on First Street from Main to Northeast, wherever, a block or 2 out there, we'll identify and map all those households, and then we'll literally go knocking on doors and asking the residents, they'll explaining our purpose. We'll have a letter of intent which says we're working with the city of Whitney to do this, and contact numbers if need be, but we'll literally go door to door and attempt to obtain this information. We have to receive an 80% response rate on that, and 51% of the persons identified by way of that survey have to be of low to moderate income in order for that area to qualify for improvements. If not, we move to the next identified area and try again. So
it kind of roll back to the projects. Our focus in this town is going to be drainage and street improvements. And it's my understanding that the way this grant kind of works is that if we get into a street improvement, we identify a sewer line that's broken or damaged, needs replaced, while we're replacing that street, we're able to do so. Is that correct?
Absolutely. That would be an anticipated or unanticipated, and either way, that's a Tier 1 category as well, so it would qualify. Now, budget-wise, that would be good to know up front if there's that potential, so the engineer could potentially estimate some funds towards that, because if we apply for a street project for $750,000 anticipating we can go from here, from this point to this point, it's beneficiary driven. So anytime we affect those beneficiaries, it's a process to amend the contract and hope that our amended area still obtains the same. We don't have to have the same beneficiary ratio, but we still have to meet that 51% threshold. So any area we look at, we want to be sure it's a pretty solid area for low to moderate income. But budget-wise, that would be something you'd have to consider, because the engineer's estimate, if you're solely looking at streets and drainage, is going to focus on that and not that. And that's the same for anything that may come up when the project's underway.
I don't have any questions, Council, Mayor. Anybody?
You're welcome.
Well,
That's great that you hit the $750,000 realm too. That's a big deal. It'll entertain some larger project areas and combat the struggles that have been had with being able to accomplish a meaningful project. So.
thank you very much. Line item 7, hold a public hearing on the Texas Community Development Block Grant Program, the Texas CDBG for program years 2025-2026 relating to community development and housing needs. Going to the hearing at 6:20. Wesley. Amy, you too? You'll have 4 minutes as well.
So I guess I would suggest that since we can't use this for a new wastewater treatment, then and it's income driven, so there's not going to be a lot of input really that the public will have in determining which areas, especially because Whitney is so small. But that would kind of underscore my opposition to a $48,000 expense on cameras, because we need another wastewater treatment plant. But I guess I'll submit a records request for that information too. So it would be great if we could have another public hearing where what he explained is actually explained to the public so they know what to come and talk on, because none of this was given to us. None of this was provided to the public. There were 2 posts, basically, that talked about this. And this information was not in the paper, as far as this goes. But information tonight is about information for me, and the easiest ways for people, not just Amy, to get information and have information and be informed on what the city's doing. Because those are great questions he asked, and we got some great answers. But that would have been great to know before 6:15. So anyway, thank you.
Second, what Amy said, what I've got a problem with is the fact that we're talking about spending money for cameras at that amount when I know that you can get the cameras somewhere else and not spend that type of money. Well, but we're talking about that being included in that. Okay, well, that's my gut.
In the hearing. Close the hearing at 6:22. Move on to line item 8. Deliberate and act on resolution number 2025-0102, designating authorized signatories to act as the city's executive officers and authorized representatives in matters relating to the City of Whitney's participation in the Texas Community Development Block Grant Program.
Council, obviously this is in your packet, but I'm going to read an excerpt here so that way everybody's clear about what this resolution is. This resolution is to authorize signatories on this grant and who can do what. So this says the mayor shall serve as the city's chief executive officer and authorized representatives to execute a grant application and any subsequent contractual documents, certify environmental review documents between the Texas Department of Agriculture, TDA, and the city, and certify the payment request form and or other forms required for requesting funds to reimburse project costs, and be assigned the role of authorized official in the TDA GO grant management system. In addition to the above designated official, should any grant be funded by the city secretary or operations director are authorized to certify the payment request form and or other forms required for requesting funds to reimburse project costs, prepare and submit other financial documents, and be assigned the role of project director or payment processor in the TDA GO grant management system. That is the meat and potatoes of that entire ordinance. Resolution, resolution, not ordinance. What? Resolution versus ordinance? You're authorizing the mayor to be over this and the city secretary and myself to sign for anything through this grant application to, when the funds come, we are able to allocate them out. Am I understanding that correctly? This is simply for the grant. This has nothing to do with any other funds. This is about the grant.
Line item 9, receive information from Shane Baker regarding development of approximately 70 acres in the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm coming to talk about a new subdivision, but I wanted to give an update on a couple of past projects that the council approved. So the first one, and I included in your packet, so the first 2 pages is just an overview. The last 2 pages is a overview of the subdivision. So we did Steel Meadow Estates, east of town towards Hillsboro. That was in the city's ETJ. And council approved that. So that resulted in 22 lots, all of which are sold except one. And we have 11 homes built or under construction out there. 2 more are coming soon. And then we have another developer that's bought 3 lots that intends to build as well. So that subdivision is going good and looks good, and new homes, starter home level to mid-level kind of was the goal. So maybe 275 to 450, 475. So that one's gone really well. The council also approved the Whitney Business District, so cleaning up the old Paul's building. So we cleaned that up, and then we were able to successfully recruit LP Physical Therapy to the roadside building, and so LP Physical Therapy has done a good job, keeps a clean space, provides a good service to citizens, good revenue. for the city. We've also recruited O'Reilly Auto Parts, which we're under contract with an estimated close date of March 30th, but they have the ability to push that a couple of more 30 days. So we're in process with them. So everything looks really good. That would be a brand new construction, X% masonry, like a really nice building in town. Again, should be good revenue for the city, should be good for the citizens. So those two projects we worked with the council on, the city on, had great success, and we appreciate that. So upcoming project, we purchased 70 acres behind Tres Hermanos, Allsups, SNA, that area. Very pretty area, a lot of trees, big trees. That property goes from Jefferson Street all the way to the County Road 2129, so it spans both roads. We also purchased, honestly, because it was an eyesore and dilapidated and falling apart, the old Riley's Auto Parts building, Dixie Boat Repair most recently, and gave it a facelift, cleaned it up. So I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's got some new brick, and we're going to continue cleaning it up. That will house. We've got a little cafe coming to town that's going to open in there, and then we'll have some offices for lease, and our offices will be in there. And then right behind that will be the proposed new subdivision area. Of the 70 acres, we're proposing to develop roughly 55, 57 of that into large acreage tracts, 1 to 7 acres. We want to reserve 13 acres. The 13 acres is the property that is right behind all of the homes. So when you're coming down Jefferson, the property we want to develop right now is behind Tres Hermanos, Allsups, SNA. It's all behind the commercial stuff. There's nothing being developed behind the residential stuff down that road, down the 933 Jefferson Road. That we're reserving for later to come back to you and talk about and figure out what we think that would be a good, good use for in the future. So if you turn over to the plat, that'll give you an idea of, there's 2 pages there. There's the actual plat from the surveyor, and then there's an aerial that shows the actual property, and I put some identifying markers on there, like where Tres Hermanos is, where Allsups is, to give you a feel of what the project looks like, what the property looks like. And our goal was to bring this to the council and talk about it and see what everybody thought. We want to ask, we just want to do Still Meadow Estates again in a little bit larger acreage format. We want to do a gated community, so gated on both sides. The city would have no obligations as far as sewer, road maintenance, would have really no obligations at all, except providing 20 water meters. And so we're talking about chip sealed or asphalt road, maintained with a warranty by the subcontractor that does it, and then following that with an HOA, POA, some sort of property ownership situation. So we're setting it up to where essentially the city has no responsibility other than to provide the water meters. These residents would pay for the water meters, pay for the water, and then we would just set it up to where if the city wanted to, they could annex this property if they want to. It's just up to the city, So, but to get going, we want to roll it out like Still Meadow Estates, which follows Hill County guidelines. And so, some highlights of what Still Meadow Estates is. So, it has drainage planning, drainage engineering, again, chip seal asphalt roads, installation of underground water lines, underground electric by Texas, New Mexico. All of the homes have to be inspected by Bureau Veritas, the city's inspection vendor. A common mailbox area, Again, as I mentioned, all home sites would be aerobic septic, so no city sewer required. Private trash service. So, again, we wanted to bring that tonight to talk about it, to see if soon we could bring that to the council for a vote, allowing us to do it. And so I wanted to, see if you had questions or thoughts or comments.
So if I may, Shane, Caitlin, and I have been working together on this for several months. Essentially what Mr. Baker's asking us to do is he had a very successful subdivision that he already had in the works prior to Mayor Barker getting the IOA between the city and the county for us to regulate the subdivision regulations in our ETJ. What Mr. Baker wants to do is adhere to the county's subdivision regulations as opposed to ours, which are much more restrictive, and build the subdivision. It's a successful one. I have no problem with it. I think it's good. He builds quality homes, and frankly, we need those in our area. Actually helped Jane work through how to lay this out and to better help the city down the road. So this isn't a short-term plan. They're invested in this for the long term. So this is a very well thought out subdivision. The way that we've kind of laid out the roads makes sense to lay utilities out. Coming from a public works background, we made it to where it's easy for us to get things situated. So again, we've been working on this for several months now. Coming from a public works background, I have no problem with the way this is laid out. I have no problem with them adhering to the county's subdivision regulations as opposed to ours. Probably we should have never entered into that IOA, but that's for another time. But right now, from my perspective, I encourage you to give us your feedback on this. The reason we're having this meeting tonight in a discussion forum is we were working on drafting a development agreement. But what we did not want to do is draft that development agreement, waste attorneys' time without you being able to ask questions. So you ask your questions now, let's get them ironed out, then let's draft the development agreement before we present something to you and it has to go back for redraft and redraft and redraft. So let's get those questions asked tonight. Let's work through the problems, let's work through the details, so that gives us direction on where to take this thing.
First of all, we got to protect our citizens in this town and also protect the developer is what my main goal is. We're all not going to do what's, in everybody's eyes, it's where you agree to disagree, but my thoughts on all this is we need to have our T's crossed and I's dotted. Now you're going to ask where you're going with it. Like I said, I want to protect the developer. I want to protect the citizens. Have we done a water study to see if we can even carry the meters for the gentleman?
And several years ago, we contracted an engineering firm to work on our water study for the system. We, on January 27th, received our preliminary report back. Now, we did identify some errors in that report. We're going to have to do some field survey to verify. But the preliminary came back that, yes, we do have the capacity to support this subdivision. And once we get those errors identified, and if they are, in fact, errors, we're going to have even more capacity than the engineer identified.
And the other concern would be, sewage, but he's already answered that question, so we don't need to go down that road. I know we're having, issues, and we're trying to fix them, and we didn't want to create any more than what we need at this moment. But he's already got that solution for that. So, and the trash and all that. So, he's already answered the other questions that I was really wanting answers for. So.
Yeah, because we've noticed that the larger tracts are popular. 2 acres or 3 acres, 5 acres. We get a ton of phone calls about those, and there's not that many available anywhere. And so we just thought it fits good. We don't have that availability here. And so I sort of also felt like it was almost, not competition with White Bluff, but an alternative to a White Bluff type situation, And so providing someone who didn't want to be there the ability to be somewhere like this, closer to the city and a lot of other things, obviously. But actually, we wanted to do, well, as we did out there, starter and mid-grade sort of. We want to do mid-grade and above. I think we'll build the first house there, and it will be a nice house. I mean, maybe 400, 500,000. So, interestingly, the Still Meadow houses are selling, I mean, just about as soon as we get them done. I mean, it's amazing the need for housing. The first one we sold in 5 days. The second one we sold in 3 days. It's pretty interesting. So housing's definitely needed, and our goal is to do this, open up the lots for sale, offer our services to build you a house, or we build houses too as we're going along. And so our formula seems to be working at the moment, and so that's the plan. Same. No. Pretty much what you see is what it is. We've already cleared the road. The road was almost cleared all the way through. We had one little patch we had to make, but no, very, very heavily wooded, and that's one of the things that adds unique.
Councilwoman West, if I may, Shane and Caitlin and I actually went out for a ride on this property and looked. All of the oak trees are preserved. It's actually beautiful out there. The only thing that has been cleared off that land to make room were the mesquites and things like that. The large trees and all the viable trees are still standing.
I would like to mention to you specifically on your points, the 13 acres that we own, it's not drawn on here, it's phase 2 or down the road. Just like we're bringing O'Reilly's Auto Parts, Dyna Energetics, LP Physical Therapy. I mean, we'd love to hear ideas from you guys on anything the city thinks they need in that area. So. Same page. That's a really good question. Totally restricted against doing that. These lots cannot be subdivided. What you see is what they are and is what they'll always be. Without coming to you guys for you to allow it, you know. Oh yeah, Janice. Yes, thank you. That's the 13 acres I was talking about right there. Yes. That could be. I mean, I want to do what's good for the community, you know, and so sort of invite everyone to bring ideas and throw anything around that they think is good for the area, you know. Yes. Okay, so behind Carla's Wacky Shop, you take 2129 all the way around, and it's right before David Peters' property where he has his high fence. And it's kind of a cool feature of the place that, you know, you have entry from the county road and entry from the city, and depending on where you are in there, you might go one way or the other. So yeah, pretty cool feature. And we've done 35 of these, maybe 40, and so and it'll be done the right way the first time. Drainage will be done the right way. The gates will be done the right way. We're going to set it up again where our vendors, have warranties, and within the first year or two, they come back out, they make the repair. I mean, I think we've got it down, and so we would expect, I guess if you guys said yes, we would start immediately. So immediately a road would go in, the gates would go up, and this would be available just as soon as maybe 3 months, I would say. So this is a pretty quick project. We'd already done a lot of work that we could do, clearing and cleaning. Gated on both sides, yes. And we know the city has a lot to handle in itself, and so we felt like if you gate it and restrict it, and I guess that's another restrictions. I mean, so there's going to be a good bit of deed restrictions that keep it clean and keep it nice, and that's what we did at Still Meadow Estates. And next time I come, I can bring that and give you guys an opportunity to look at that, like square footage requirements on the homes, masonry requirements. You can't do this, you can't do that, that kind of stuff. So it's very important to protect each property so that it looks nice and works for the long term.
Just so you know, the restrictions that Mr. Baker's talking about right now, the legislation took that away from the municipalities to be able to regulate. So if they're writing those in their own homeowners association type things, they can regulate it that way. But just to be clear, the municipal, we cannot do that. So even in our subdivision regulations, that is no more. So he's talking about high quality, very well put together homes. I'm sorry, man. We just kind of need some direction here. If you kind of like what we're doing here, if you are okay with us proceeding with the development agreement, and because we're going to have to essentially, since we have the interlocal agreement, it's going to really dictate how we do it, because we're essentially going to have a variance on our entire subdivision regulations, and then adopting the counties in their place. So if you're okay with that, we just kind of need to know that, so we know what direction to go with this development agreement. Cynthia, who's our normal attorney, she's not here tonight. She's already kind of tracking what's going on here, but we need direction from you. So if you're okay with this direction, we can start drafting this. They're ready to go.
We sort of set the precedent with Still Meadow Estates, and so that's what we're hoping to do. That formula worked. Getting outside that box brings in a lot of other things to think about and creates a lot of issues, and so if we can do it that way, which we know looks good and works good, we're comfortable. And so,
No, this is just giving guidance and direction. So this is not about a motion or anything. We need to know the council's intent so we can get together, we can start putting that development agreement together to bring it to you. That's strictly what tonight's about.
My opinion on all this is it's not in the city of Whitney yet. It can be because you can annex it. Okay? This is not something that we had to, you got guidelines already there for subdivisions. This is not a city of Whitney deal. We go by the guidelines, whatever he had to follow with Trinity out there. And move forward, Still Meadow, I'm sorry. And move forward. That is not our decision on that part. As long as he's by the guidelines and he's outside the city limits and the city is not annexed, guys, it's not up to us. And I support him, what he wants to do to make our community better. The only thing that we got in our hands right now is that can we support him water? You did it. We did a water study. We can do it. Okay? That is the decision that we need to make in the future or whatever. So to answer your question and your question, I would tell you all to move forward because it is not our decision because you're outside the city limits. As long as we go by the guidelines like we did with Steel Meadow. I mean,
And in the future, would you have any?
No problem at all. Whatever the city wants. Yeah. Whatever works best for you guys. We just, to get it started and get it going, our plan would be develop it and then go, do you want it? Or, y'all ready? Or do you not want it? Or you want to wait? Or, so, fantastic. It would be all county, pre-annex. It would be county, and so that's for you guys. I mean, the annex conversation for you is, I mean, there's a lot of meat there because there's responsibility for the city, whereas step one there's not necessarily. So
let me say it this way: our police department and our sheriff's department have a great working relationship. If there's somebody that's in need of help that is within our ETJ, our officers will always respond.
Okay, thank you.
Council, if I may, what the mayor said, I think that one thing that has been kind of clarified to us is they do still intend to sell the bricks for funds. One of the things that they mentioned to us when they first contacted was that Operation Greater Love's sole purpose is to build homes for disabled veterans. And because they are expending so much of their funds maintaining the park, they're unable to fulfill their primary purpose, which is building homes for disabled veterans. And obviously, as a veteran myself, that's important to me. So, I think the ask of us, and what the mayor is saying is, it hasn't been crystal clear what the total ask is of the city, but what we do know for sure is they're asking us to take over maintenance of that park. So maintenance being mowing, the water, which will turn into a city account instead of a private or a citizen account, and whatever electricity there is. I think as far as what we're a little confused about is what the operation of that park looks like. Is it now a city park? It's city-owned property. Let me be clear about that. The city gave that property to Operation Greater Love, or let Operation Greater Love build that memorial on city property. The city still owns that property, so there's no public funds being misappropriated here. Let me be clear. So we just kind of need to know if you're okay with us taking over the maintenance of that and what that looks like going forward. We're still trying to get clarity on the end game here, but we do know for sure that they're wanting us to take over the mowing, the water, and I guess the electricity. So Public Works would wind up doing the mowing, and they're strapped for people as it is. So it would have to be put on their mowing schedule. But the electricity, I have no idea. Water, we provide the water, so it's not a cost to us other than what it costs to treat it and deliver it. I don't know the square footage of it, but it's the one. So here's something else to consider: is the mayor and I have been working on park projects for a long time together. One of her initiatives coming into her campaign was park projects. We've been trying to secure a whole lot of land around that area to expand our park system. So by the city taking that on as part of their maintenance, it's kind of putting us on that path at which the mayor and I have laid the groundwork for 2 years ago. So we're trying to get that area and that around that creek that flows water to become a centerpiece. Yeah. Completely outside of the city's control. That would be something, because they use those when they sell those bricks. That's how they raise some of their funds to build these homes. So I'm not sure that's something that Operation Greater Love would have to speak on. Again, the ask here, I believe, and Mr. Ennis, you may have more information on this than I'm not sure.
I've been involved in several parks like this before. I actually had a hand in on this one too. My company donated to help get this one built. We put in irrigation. We kept the lawn care on it for several years for free. And then they turned around and said, you can't keep on doing this for free. So then they started paying my company to mow it. They approached me, I don't know if it was before Janice or whatnot, but I understand the situation. And I will give you a little history of what I've dealt with in it and everything, and try to answer and clarify some of these questions. You have a group that's going out that's for veterans, and, you know, I know we got a few probably in this room that have served time. My hat's off to you. That says a lot. That was given to us by a group of people that wanted to do something nice for our community and use their money that they raised that they can pass on and help these veterans even further. So do I think that's right, that they give us something nice to look at and keep on paying for the maintenance? No, I don't, because they want to move on and do something else. The bricks, yes, they take a brick. I think it's $150 they have bricks made. You put whoever you want to put in there, and they put it in the ground. That's how they raise their money to go and build a house or help a family out that needs money that is a veteran. For example, I was involved with one in Itasca one time, not donating or anything. Itasca brought me in later on after it was built, the city of Itasca. The same thing. They gave them something nice to look at downtown city of Itasca. At that time, the manager wanted it to be upkept and everything. So the city of Itasca hired my company to take care of that one also. And we did that for many years. To answer some of the cost and everything, it's very minimum, guys. Very minimum. You're not talking about putting city of Whitney in debt again. And I'm going to be honest with you. Facts and opinions are different, so I guess this is opinion. We'd be very selfish if we turned our back on it because of the reason what it's for. Anybody in this room turned their back on it, they'd be very selfish because them people fought for us. But to answer the financial deal, you have a group that is a volunteer group here. It's called, I think, the Garden Club. They donate their time, and they go in and refreshing all the plants. They do maintenance on the plants. They contact businesses like me, or like my business, and ask us if we want to help. We have helped them. So the city, I figure, will still have that support because the community, there's so many groups of people in this community that supports that park. You know, I mean, and mowing is very little. Irrigation, guys, I'm a licensed irrigator. And I know I'm on the council and this doesn't have nothing to do with it. I'm just telling you. My dad was a veteran. My father-in-law was. And I don't have a brick out there. And I'm fixing to. But I tell you what, the city of Whitney, Operation Greater Love called me and asked me to go and fix a sprinkler head, I'm going to run. Because this is my community, this is my home, and that's a good statement right there in that park for all the people that have fought for us. So to answer that question, that's not going to be a cost on the city, because I'm going to run. And that's not because I'm on the council, that's just because of the reason. So the only thing that's going to cost you money is a little bit of electricity, and I bet you anything, that electrical box, it runs a few lights that shines on the trees, and used to have one on the sign, runs the irrigation box, which does not really run nothing. So you're probably spending maybe $30, if that, and I'm probably overshooting it, a month. Lawn care is going to be the labor of the people that mows it. Or if you make another deal with another lawn care, and they might want, donate their time because of what it is. So expense on the city is it's very minimum, and it shouldn't even be questionable. I mean, it's something I would support outside the city. So hopefully that answers some of y'all's questions.
And, do we have a motion to maintain it? Okay. Line item 11, deliberate and act on amended and restated fire services and protection agreement between the Whitney Fire Rescue, Inc. and the City of Whitney, and authorize the mayor to sign the same.
So, Council, in 2008, the city and the Whitney Volunteer Fire Department went into an agreement with each other that basically said that the city would maintain the provide the equipment, they would maintain the equipment, they would provide certain funds for the volunteer fire department to operate. Over time, the lines have become very blurred as to is it a city department or is it a Whitney Volunteer Fire Department. So our attorney, Robin Cross, actually approached us about needing to re-up that agreement because since 2008, a lot of things have changed legally, and they're a 501c3 organization, so we have to be careful with what we do and how funds are allocated. This new amended and restated agreement, obviously it has a lot of legalese in it because things have changed a lot since 2008. But the core of it here is the city still provides in their a budget every year approved by the council, operation expenses, maintenance expenses, as is laid out in the ordinance, or the agreement, I'm sorry. God, I keep saying that word. So the agreement here, the city maintains ownership and retains complete ownership of all the equipment, but authorizes the volunteer fire department to use that equipment to not only respond in town, but in the fire district as assigned by PSD. Also, it's in the agreement that the Whitney Volunteer Fire Department, or as it's now called, Whitney Fire Rescue, shall never charge a resident of the city of Whitney for any services rendered. So, it's always been volunteer fire departments can charge to recoup some of their stuff to insurance companies, okay? That is in this agreement that they shall never charge citizens a fee to respond. Again, there's a lot of legal stuff in here. We can bounce it off the attorney if you have questions because I'm not a lawyer. I did not go to law school. But that's the gist of what we're looking at here. And Robert may have some input on it. And we have Chief Price here who was elected by the members of the fire department as the chief for Whitney Fire Rescue. So if you have questions, please, let's get them out there.
Have any questions? Well, basically, this is just, like I said, a contract. They had one years ago when it was total volunteer. But then when Whitney had a paid fire chief, I think it kind of went away, and it was just Whitney Fire Department. So now we're separating it again where they can get their 501c and they're totally volunteer. And I'm kind of acting as a liaison between the fire department and the city and look out for the city's interest. So that's why we come up with this contract.
I do need to make a point of correction here. On page 9 of the agreement that is inside of your packets, it has Robert Matthews, Director of Emergency Services, as a signatory for Whitney Fire and Rescue. That is not accurate. That should not be his name there. Robert Matthews is an employee of the city, and this needs to be signed on behalf of somebody that is of Whitney Fire Rescue. So I just need to make that clear that if you decide to pass this, you need to make that statement in your motion with those changes.
Questions, but I want to explain something. The reason why the volunteer fire department is because you got opening up more doors to help the volunteer, the fire department itself. Many moons ago, whenever it was a volunteer fire department, I was part of it, along with my brother and a lot of other people. It opens up many doors that the citizens, I'm sorry, this whole community is responsible. You got to pitch in and help work together. If you don't work together, we're never going to move forward. Back when I was involved with the fire department, drop the hat, you can call anybody and they'd come running. You needed extra dollar, drop the hat, somebody would reach in their pocket and give it to you. Being underneath the city name and everything, I understand from my experience and everything in the past being involved that this is the right way to go, because it opens up doors more than one way for us financial and support and everything else. My opinion, can't back up time, but I wish it never did go this way. As a volunteer and seeing how hard people did work and what you can get. I mean, you get grants for a new truck. We did it. You can't do that as a city.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't. And then you're buying trucks with taxpayers' money, so whenever you can go to the Forestry Service and get a new brush truck. It just goes on and on and on. So this is really a win-win for this whole community if we go back this way.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Thank you. Line item 12, deliberate, act, and provide guidance making an offer of employment for 2 police officer applications. Chief?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. So, as you know, we're down current employment with the police department. We're down 3 positions. And that, unfortunately, wasn't because of the city or anything. It's just people made other choices in their life. And then, of course, we lost former Chief Neville, who's now constable. So we ended up placing an ad out there on the city website, TML. I actually contacted TCOL, got on their website as well in early December. We had several applicants put in for it, and we were able to get down to 2 applicants who passed an extensive background and then also went through a recent oral board and passed that and was recommended and basically was brought before you. I think there was a letter provided as well in there for 2 individuals, Mr. Anthony Watson, who's formerly with the Navarro County Sheriff's Office, and then also Ronnie Palza, who is a current city employee, works for the EMS, but is a former Whitney officer as well. So I'm just my recommendation to move on to the basically to fill these positions, or 2 of the positions that are open, it's 2 individuals.
I'd like to add that I sat in on that review board, and when we interviewed the 2 officers, and I was very impressed with their answers, their professionalism, and I think what made me think very highly of both candidates was they both stated what they hear on the streets is how close our police department is with each other and the relationships that they have with, or that our police department has with Hill County and or emergency services. And that kind of touches me a little bit, that what we had in our police department. So thank you.
I definitely agree too. I think we're one big family, so that's what you want to keep it, have good teamwork, and provide everything you can for the community. So,
Council and Mayor, I want to also say I was on the review boards, and I interrogated them pretty hard. I asked them very pointed questions, and I want you to know that something that both candidates said without being asked was both of them identified the positive changes that have happened in this city. Both of them identified the growth in our department, in our police department. Both of them also identified the equipment improvements that we've made. And I want to point out that over the span of 2.5 years now, the city spent just shy of $500,000 on the police department with new equipment, new cars, and incentives to try to get this. So anybody that thinks that we haven't been spending is very misinformed. So we are making changes. We are also seeing positive impacts with these candidates. They're seeing the changes that are happening in the city. Our new chief is recruiting like crazy. He already has another candidate potentially coming for that third position. We continue to do what we do, support our departments, and we make these things happen. Good things will come.
Yes, currently we do have one officer at Geary who works night shift currently. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Line item 13, deliberate and act on resolution number 2025-0103, approving the interlocal agreement with Hill County on behalf of the Sheriff's Department, authorizing the mayor to execute the interlocal agreement.
Well, hello, I'm back again. So this one is a little different with the interlocal agreement. So I guess in place there was never one of these interlocal agreements, so it's been a long time. And actually, I mean, that's just last thing we just went over, but it's basically an interlocal agreement to assist us in case we are down on manpower again with the Hill County Sheriff's Office coming in here and contracting within the city. Yes, it is Hill County. They do patrol the streets, but for them to actually work for us at that time, because I know lately, especially being down, we're running a 4-man crew. All my guys are working overtime. I'm out there working 60, 80 hours a week to make sure we have 24/7 coverage for the city. So that was the whole game plan, getting out there recruiting, trying to get people to come on board and work for our agency. But then as a backup now, as a, in case we need to use it, to have an agreement with the Sheriff's Office and with the county commissioners that they would assist us if we need to. No, I understand what you're saying. It's basically a deputy would be contracted just to the city and be paid by the city and would respond to city calls, just as a normal Whitney police officer is. And that's his main assignment during that time. So if it's a 12-hour period, his 12 hours is spent in the city of Whitney. That is something that will be determined. This is the first step. This is something brought before you guys, and then it would basically go to the county commissioners, and that's where they discuss, and they go back and forth to fees, which we brought back. And then it's all approved by the county commissioners, and of course Sheriff Barnes as well would have to approve it to assist. And it'd basically be a yearly kind of agreement that we'd go through every year, just as a backup to have. Correct, yes, mutual aid. At this time, besides, if there is a call for service here in the city, and we're overwhelmed, of course, we have a good, relationship with the sheriff's office. They're right there with us to assist. But say if none of us were able to work the streets, there's no one there, and that's basically how it is right now. So, yes. But supposedly there wasn't a current one, and so I've kind of drafted a new one, and just trying to get that started with the commissioners and everything else. So. Thank you very much.
Line item 14, deliberate and act on purchasing Vocado cameras for the Lake Whitney Public Library in the amount not to exceed $48,670. Well,
Members of the City Council, this came about basically because some of the issues that we've seen here at the library. Unfortunately, some of our homeless have made a living quarters out of the back area. Actually, we've found them up front, and we've also had some incidents up in the parking lot. The request was to come in, place security cameras, not only outside. We would be 100% covered through the outside. We would also cover the working areas of the library to ensure that it's very hard for the employees to see down the book aisles, see the areas where the kids may be. So it was covering that. Additionally, the cameras would be put in here, not only for security purposes, but also covering these kind of events rather than using the small cameras that we're using now. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Well, Council, if I may, the concern with the transient was brought to us as a staff concern. They asked us to help look for options here, and the cameras that were inside this building were very outdated. Also, we've had some vandalism happen in the parking lot in council meetings, and unfortunately those outdated cameras don't work very well at night. So these are the same cameras that we have at PD. These are the same cameras that we have at City Hall, the same company. What this will also do is, you may or may not, we have some new members, but some of my background is I used to work for some very important, very wealthy people. These cameras are better than what we use in their residence. So they can be used to set off alarms. They're very, very, very high speed. The best thing about this is such a remote building from the rest of the city facilities that it's almost detached from City Hall or PD. We're all very close there, to include Public Works. We're all very close. This is very, I hate to say off the beaten path, but there's more foot traffic that happens here every day than happens in any other city building. Our police officers with these cameras, the way these cameras work, will be able to monitor what's going on here in PD on a live stream in real time.
And we can also send alerts. So we can set up each of the cameras for specific incidents at specific times. So at night, we can notify PD, the PD patrol officer, that there's an event occurring at that time. These cameras are probably the best on the market.
So let me say that they work very well. I don't think that, yes, they're not Ring cameras, okay? Are there cheaper cameras on the market? Absolutely. One of the best things about these cameras that we currently have is if anything ever happens or there's an update, they replace it. It's done. It's part of it. They come in, they fix it, it's replaced. It's not like you have to buy a whole new camera. It's not like you're spending $48,000 every year to do this. Again, same company, trying to remain consistent throughout the city with what we're doing. Same cameras at City Hall, same cameras at PD, same company, same install. They'll come in and install everything.
And understand that a lot of that initial spend is installation charges. So that's not going to be the ongoing charge. So that implementation, the installation, is included in that 48. It is very much. Look at the size of the building.
We put 3 cameras in City Hall.
We're at every corner of the building. We're in 2, really 3 large areas inside the building. It's all numbers. It's the numbers of cameras to get the coverage that would be required to see what's going on around you. That's really what it is. We're looking at, I want to say, 17 cameras. I'll have to look at that to validate it. We put in 2 at City Hall.
So there is, we learned a lesson with the water meters and buying a whole bunch of data up front. What we're going to do with these is we bought 10-year licenses with the other cameras. We're going to do it on an annual basis with this if we decide to go this rate. And that's just to protect the city, because if that, for whatever reason, if we bought 10 years worth of data, of cloud storage, we'll say, or data from a company, and they go out of business, then we paid for nothing. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this on a 1-year renewal, and that 1-year renewal is in the packet of $43.98.
I'm going to add to that, this is a library that has children,
Yeah.
small children.
And that's why I definitely see where you're coming from, but that's why Hill County is looking at these cameras. The ISD is looking at these cameras, and it's all for the same reason. Everybody hates it. You shouldn't have to do it. At the end of the day, if you don't do it, you're putting yourself and the city at risk. I do. So the alternative is to go with a cheaper solution that is not going to have the ability to provide alerts. It's not going to have the ability for remote monitoring at the drop of a hat on their tools at their desk. It's not going to have that capability. The solution that we built provides all of that and more. Yes, ma'am. I'm Hill County. I'm sorry, I think it's Hillsborough. I'm not sure if it's the county. I think it's Hillsborough.
I think they're looking at them as an option. I don't know that they've actually gone this direction. I also know with the school that my wife works at, they provided a bid to them as well.
Yeah.
The liability standpoint that Mr. Ince brings up is one that I should have touched on before. But we obviously live in a very litigious society now, and all it takes is somebody brushing up against you to try to file assault charges on you, and the next thing you know, the city's in a lawsuit. These things are a protection asset, and I think that that's what we have to look at this as. Yes, it's a significant investment, but are you willing to lose a lawsuit in court when you can't prove or disprove that you are not at fault for something?
And also, I want to mention that we are using, I don't want to say a cheaper solution, a less technical solution, even at City Hall. So our areas outside of the area, the payment window, lobby, we're using a solution that has to be, it's after the fact. Everything's after the fact. So if an incident occurs, I can go in and pull the footage, but it's not something that provides the capabilities that this solution does. So I agree with you. Where it's warranted, use a cheaper solution where you don't have the risk. But in the case of the library, it's 100% risk.
Yeah, stand up, go to the podium and state your name and... Many of you know me, and as the interim director of the library, this is something that I noticed when I was volunteering here and when I started as a part-time employee here. I noticed that you frequently have overnight visitors. I will call them guests. What I did not notice until I started coming in by myself at 8 a.m. in the morning to guest on the front porch that I cannot see until I drive up and must call the police at a cost to ask them to remain and wait for them to start my day. I realize now. I drive into the parking lot behind the building every morning to check and see if there's someone sleeping on the back porch. And I will tell you, 2 to 3 days a week, that happens. I do not call the police every time because now my husband drives up here with me every day until I get in, say everything's okay. That's just me. I'm a little overcautious. I'm going to give you that. I understand the cost, and until this evening, I had not seen the bid. So, gosh, was a little scary to me too. But I just wanted to put a little bit of a face to it. And it's not just that. It's not just me coming in and maybe there's someone sleeping on the front porch who, honestly, is a very kind gentleman in my experience. Maybe not in everyone else's. But I don't want to wake him and ask him to move. And so I have to call the police at a cost to ask him to move. Secondarily, when I'm sitting at that desk, you'll remember the children's section is at the very back, behind a very tall shelf. And the only way to keep an eye on children who may be back there, whose parents may have stepped over and be looking at a book, is if I walk back there, which I do quite frequently because that's my favorite part of working at the library is talking to everyone. But I do just want you to, from a practical perspective, understand what the issue is, and then, your decision I certainly respect. But I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you for the time.
Yeah. No. Technically, no. Like I say, there are cheaper systems, but they're not going to have the technical capabilities. And it's not it's not all about being able to see. It's not just about that. It's about the alerts. It's about, so these cameras will do facial recognition. These systems will do sound. The capabilities that they provide, the ability for, so everybody from the fire department to the girls that are sitting in the main office, myself, Billy, Christy, all has 7x24 access to those cameras at City Hall. If you go into their offices, you're going to see the lobby. You're going to see that work area up there where the girls are taking them in. And having that ability is huge. Can I do it with cheaper technology? Yes. Is it going to be the same? No. It's not. remember the day when we didn't lock the back door. And the neighbors would come in, yep, and the neighbors would come in for coffee, you know. We didn't think about it back then. Unfortunately, those days are gone.
Every corner in this town.
Yes, ma'am. And this will give us a much better option to provide that.
Yeah, we can, if you want to make a motion, you can make it, or whatever.
Make a motion to publish the comment from us to the West Virginia Public Library. And amount not to exceed $40,000.
Thank you. I see it. No.
It is. Line item 15, deliberate and act on ordinance 2025-0102 of the City of Whitney, Texas, approving an amendment to the 2024-2025 fiscal year budget not to exceed $48,670.
This was obviously not approved in the budget, so when we did our budget and worked through the workshops, this was not approved, so we need to do a budget amendment to fund these cameras. That's what the ordinance is about. Got it right that time. You're making a motion to approve.
Line item 16, deliberate and act on ordinance number 2025-0103, ordering the joint general election with the Whitney Independent School District to be held on May 3rd, 2025, for the purpose of electing a mayor and 2 city council members to hold the office for a term of 2 years each.
Pretty straightforward. I mean, we have to...
Executive session. If during the course of the meeting covered by this notice, the City Council should determine that a closed or executive meeting or session of the City Council or a consultation with the attorney for the city should be held or is required, then such closed or executive meeting or session or consultation with an attorney is authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.001, etc., will be led by the City Council at the date, hour, and place given in this notice, as the City Council may conveniently meet in such closed or executive session, meeting, or sessions, or consult with the attorney for the city concerning any and all subjects and for any and all purposes permitted by the Act, including but not limited to the following sections and purposes. Section 551.074, discussing personnel matters or to hear complaints against personnel. Library Director, we're going to go into executive session at 7:38. 55.
I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and make a contingent offer for candidate for the director of the library. All in favor? Aye.
Adjourn 7:55. Yeah, we don't. Where's Josh? There's a nail in this chair that I thought my eyes.